Hey everybody, it's Spear, and back with another Dragon Ball deck profile. So I know I did some gameplay footage of Life Trunks last week, but the reason that I didn't do a deck profile like I usually do for my weekly tournaments is because I hadn't actually tested the package in its entirety. So last week I ended up running a really stock package. I ran the Bulmas, I ran 4 of everything, of really just to try and understand what I liked, what I didn't like, and so that we could take a list of somewhere that I appreciated more going into this week. So this week, instead of orienting towards Turbo Vegito, we're a bit more mid-range to actually mitigate for the realities of playing the game not in a vacuum. With that said, guys, if you guys want to see me play this deck, I'll be live on Twitch today at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific time, testing out the updated version of this deck. So you guys want to see it? Of course, links will be down there. But with that said, let's jump into my version of Life Trunks. So here's the deck. Of course, if you guys want just the deck list, well, here it is. Link will be in the description as usual. And we're orienting ourselves towards having a bit more of a mid-range plan with this deck list. Now, there's a couple of considerations here. Things like I don't have the promo Trunks, the one that negates anything that's above your opponent's energy. I unfortunately don't really have it. So I tech in a few other defensive options instead. However, I will say right now that if you do have them, you should absolutely be running them. You know, you would cut one ape, you would cut arguably maybe a couple of the beans, but there are some decisions you can make there to make it more meta relevant. It just so happens I don't have the card. So those are techs that you guys should consider if you're planning on working off of my list and moving forward with it. We'll jump right away into the leader, and the leader is super sweet because it counteracts a lot of what opponents are trying to do in the game, especially when we're talking about these really aggressive crit leaders, kind of like Broly Swap. He has a permanent that if you would take damage on your opponent's turn, you may reveal that card and put it in your hand instead. The whole reason we're revealing cards is to work with the Trunks archetype, which can ramp you or play bodies based on how you reveal them from life. It also means you can't get critted, which is absolutely massive, and works really well when we're trying to counteract things like Reboot Gohan. Now they can't crit you. Those are cards you're getting to your hand. Incidentally, you might end up getting free blockers. So this permanent is super sweet. When he swings, he draws 1, and then if you or your opponent are at 4 life, he gets to flip over, which is a great awakening skill because it orients between, are you going to be taking pressure, you can still awaken if you need to, or are you applying pressure to your opponent, or is your opponent self-awakening really hard? If you're in a point where your opponent's doing that, you're going to gain the advantage by being able to awaken pretty much at the same time they are. So there's that great balancing factor back and forth in terms of how you can awaken this leader. On his awaken side, he does have the same permanent where you get to reveal a life and put it in your hand. He also draws when he attacks, but now he has a great removal option where for 2 blue, you get to bottom deck any of your opponent's cards. It doesn't ignore barrier, it's not perfect, but it does gain an energy back once you trigger it at the end of your turn, which is sweet. It means it effectively costs you 1. You know you're gonna have 1 energy bounce back for when you need to be defensive on your turn. A phenomenal option. I love removal on a leader because it just makes you so versatile, and it gives you an energy sink at any point of the game to at least be able to move the game plan more towards your favor and let you have the advantage. When we're looking at the defense, we're looking at a decent amount of negates, and we're trying to orient ourselves towards things that allow us to Union Fusion into our Vegito later. So we're looking at Vegeta, Warrior that cross time. Here you're running either 2 or 3 of them. I believe in the build I'll be running today, I'll be running 3. Unique. So Unique is relevant, guys. Do keep in mind that you can only have 1 of him on board, but he's a 1-drop 15k beater, which is sweet, and you can Union Fusion him away later. Then we got Trunks, Never Ending Justice. I'm running this as a 3 of. If I had 4, arguably I could see us running 4. You want to hit this card all the time from your life because it bounces 2 cards back to your opponent's hand, which means you're setting them back tempo wise, you're setting up a defense with a 15k blocker, and it hits anything outside of anything with barrier, which means it's great against things like Broly Swap, against Gogeta, against Gotenks. There's a lot of things that this really does well in slowing down, which makes it absolutely amazing. We are running a 4 of God Sealing Trunks. I could see us running 3 because we are only running 4 unisons, but in general, 3 to 4, there's no reason not to run the God Seal. It is the best counterplay in the game. Of course, we're running the 1 of Baby Hatjack. Guys, it buys us a free turn. Like 99% of situations, this guarantees you get a free turn, which is absolutely insane. We gotta run it. And then finally, we run a 1 of Zeno Edge in Space. So I have a split of my super combos between 1 Zeno and 3 Zamasus. This is just to orient myself against things like the silver bullets. Also, it means that I have the option to untap defensively if I don't have access to things like Dimension Magics or anything like that. So here we're mitigating a bit of matchups here and there. While I would like to run just 4 Zamasus, I'm fine with teching in the Zenos, and more deck lists I'm building in blue are teching in more Zeno super combos, either as a split or even just flat out as a 4-up. Going into the multicolor aspects, we have Zamasu, Sacred Disbeliever, running this as a 3-of course, one of the best super combos in the game, prevents attacks, and it also allows you to go into Son Goku and hit Supreme Alliance, of which I am also running at a 3-of. The thing that's great about Son Goku and hit is that it's an amazing card defensively, it is an amazing card offensively, and it serves a triple purpose of being a Goku, which means that when we are ready to Potara Fusion him away, we can just straight up use him. So you can swing, Potara Fusion, go into your Vegito, and now we're getting a ton of value out of one battle card. I love this card, and I think any deck I can include it, I automatically do because it is insanely powerful. Of course, what's the Trunks deck without the actual Vegito package, the entire reason we're running it? Well, we now have the expansion pack Trunks, at which we're running a full 4-of. It is one of the best openers you can get because it allows you to set up your life for the rest of the game. Comes in, is a blocker, you get to put 2 battle cards, and it has to be 2, so keep that in mind that it does need to be 2 battle cards. You get to set 2 battle cards in your life, and you get to take 2 cards back. Really great at setting up the blockers, or the Vegeta, or Goku, which we run at a 3-of. Also, I could see this even going down to 2. And the biggest thing was just there's a lot of commitment you got to ask yourself in terms of how much of the package can I fit in. And I think going a midway between, we're not going to be only Vegito, because if we're only Vegito, we're doing nothing else, and odds are that's going to lose this game more often than not. If we have a balanced package to back us up, it means that we can go into more things based on how the matchup goes. So right now we're running a 3-of. I could see a 2 of each. And just in case you don't know what it does, if you reveal it from your life, you get to play it in your energy in rest mode and draw a card, which is great if you're just looking for a cycle also. At the end of your next turn, you have to toss it away into your trash. So it's kind of that balancing factor where, like, do I want to ramp a bit this turn? Am I going to make a great play? It combos really well with the baby unison that we're running, where on turn 1, if we set up the ramp with Trunks and we have a baby in hand, we can go into a turn 2 baby unison, which is a huge tempo play, and it's really great for us to be able to amount even more advantage and kind of roll away with the game versus our opponents. Then we are running a 3-3 split of the Vegito that Union Pataras for free, and you can do so from your energy. It has Deflect Blocker, which means it's pretty much guaranteed to stick on board. And then another 3 of the SSB Vegito. Comes in for 4 energy, so if you're using the Gokus and Vegetas from your energy, this is a 6 energy play, just something to keep in mind. But he has Deflect Barrier, so he's sticking on board. He's a 35k triple striker, which is massive, and when he does hit board and when he attacks, which means it's going to proc a ton of times, your opponent has to choose 2 cards from the hand and put them at the bottom of the deck. This boss monster is nuts. It is so good at generating so much advantage, and sure, you lose out on a decent amount of cards when you actually go into him, but as a game closer, it is absolutely phenomenal and really hard for your opponent to deal with. Then we're looking at the tech cards, the things that aren't core to the strategy, but things that help us. Oftentimes, Life Trunks will find that you have a lot of turns that you have nothing to do, so we're taking in a lot of mana sinks. Here we got Great Ape, Son Goku. Draws us cards, guys, and when you got nothing to do for a turn, drawing cards is pretty good. So we run him as a 3-of. He also combos well with a blue card to be able to allow us to rival into Son Goku and hit. We are running 2 Baby Golden Avengers. It allows us to close out game. It gives us some outs to some things our opponents are doing sometimes that we really don't have a good solution for. As a 2-of, I think it's great that if you see it, but the deck doesn't need to see it. We are running a 1 Foo Shot in Mystery. We're a deck that fills our drop relatively easily. Getting to 6 energy is relatively easy, and we can get into situations where we have a decent incidental board between Gokus and hits, between Vegetas. So having him out can actually do a fairly good job closing out the game, and it's not hard for us to get there. We are running 2 Senzu Beans. Bean is one of those things where it's a play extender these days. I like having it in case we're going up against a 15k beatstick deck, but in general, I do think that Bean isn't super necessary these days. I don't see myself running a 4-of for quite a while unless the meta shifts or unless people start playing silver bullets at a much harder level, at which point I will need it for the defensive untaps. And then we're running our unison of choice, the 4 babies. I used to run Zeno last week. That's what I was running because in my head I said I want to run the most turbo Vegito deck I can. And technically with the Zeno, you can go into a turn 3 Vegito. But putting all your bets into that one basket is really bad because if the plan doesn't come to fruition, then your deck does nothing for turns on turns on turns. Baby mitigates that. He's a huge unison that's really hard to kill because he's got +2 on his activate main. And he draws his card every single turn, which means we're constantly seeing things to feed into our options. It means while we don't have searchers, we will incidentally land into the Vegito package eventually. And that's my take on Life Trunks. I love this deck. I love what it's doing and it feels super powerful. And I have to say it caught me off guard with how well it feels like it can deal with the meta based on, you know, some very notions that I didn't think it was going to do so well, but it's been running really sweet and it's a super fun deck. And again guys, you guys want to watch me play the deck, I'll be live on Twitch today. Come check that out, come join. It's a ton of fun and we get to see how the deck will perform. With that said guys, what is your take on Life Trunks? I know there's a lot of things I left out, like there are things like Trunks' Time Machine, which is a great tech card. There are searches that I didn't include, but I just found them hard to fit in right now with the way that I'm trying to push the deck. How would you guys build Life Trunks, given cards that we have access to right now? If you guys like the deck profile, give it a thumbs up. Hey, if you dislike it, thumbs down works too. And if you guys want to watch more of my videos, subscription button's right in the corner. And with that said, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.